We hear from the sound team that the sound was very good. This is great news. Welcome one and all to our service of worship on this May 1st, Camping Sunday. And actually, with yesterday and today, we feel there is hope that we might be able to go camping before too long. I would guess that there are probably about 60 of us here in the sanctuary. Out in Zoom land, there's about 60 of us here. And out there in Zoom land, Andrew Robb tells me that there are 36 people, or groups, because some of them are couples, signed on. So we're a congregation with the choir of probably 100 people. Isn't that awesome for this Sunday? Tidings has all you need to know. If you're new to worship with us, you can find tidings by going on to the website, but please make sure you make yourselves known to Michelle or to any one of us, and we'll make sure that we get your name on our email list. It's important for us to know you and you to be connected to us. Only one little push today, and that is Lorna Thorne is amazing. Did you guys know that? Lorna Thorne is amazing. She is so keen on this garage sale that I just can't tell you how much work she has done. So far to date, just by herself, by posting things on Marketplace, we have raised $800. She has chosen special things and put them online. Isn't that awesome? But she can't do it all alone. So on Friday, the 13th, she needs volunteers to help set up that room downstairs. We are still accepting donations. Talk to Lorna or to Tom Kerr if you have things in your garage that you realize you'd like to get rid of. We need plastic bags or paper bags for people who are buying merchandise, and there's a basket out front that you can put your bags into. And we're also looking for plants. Lorna has thought that finally it's going to be planting weather and we can exchange some perennials. So if you've got plants you'd like to add to the sale, please do that as well. This is the life and work of Edith Rankin Memorial United Church. On Sunday, we gather for worship. Let us worship God. As we light this candle, we are reminded of the flame in each one of us, a fire of passion to be shared with the world. Through Christ, the physical reminder of God on earth, we feel the power and love within ourselves. With this invitation, we are welcome, safe, and ready to shine.
Sunday. Thanks for that, choir. We gather here on Camping Sunday to give gratitude for creation. And we gather on the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee peoples, whom from generation to generation have been teaching us about creation, how we can be in relationship with Creator and creation, how we are called to do our work, to seek reconciliation, to share responsibility for caring of Mother Earth, and to together gather around the sacred fire, to breathe, to be still, to listen, to listen to the spirit of creation that speaks to us and through us in the spirit of all things that are holy. So as we gather here, we will lift our voices in praise and prayer, in spirit and in song, just as if we were teenagers around the campfire, or old people too, because together we are campers at heart. I invite you to gather voices and spirits together as we sing our opening hymn, Come, O Fount of Every Blessing. You'll find it on page 559 or on your monitors. Invite you to join with me in the call to worship and our centering prayer that you will see on your monitor at home or here on the screens in the sanctuary. I will also repeat the all part to help those in Zoom land at home, but that's where we invite you to be bold and give your voice where it is bold also. We greet the sunrise, we greet the day, we greet each other the very same way. With grace, appreciation, respect, and welcome. The earth does not care of our creed. The trees do not withhold shade based on our gender. The sun does not refuse to shine upon those who are differently abled. Nature has no eyes for our differences, and nor does God. We too will learn to welcome all, no matter what our difference. So come and worship a God of love, compassion, grace, and hope. We come ready to worship. We come ready to gather around the campfire of inclusion. We come ready to be filled with the spirit of creation. Will you pray with me? We give thanks for your beautiful creation, the green of the trees, the bright colors of the flowers, the owls greeting at night, and the birds' early morning chirps. We savor the coolness. You can flip the slide. Thank you. We savor a little longer. We savor the coolness of the breeze and the first jump into the lake. We wait for the fireflies to light up the sky and marvel at the stars above. We give thanks for food shared with friends, the picnic tables full of snacks and sandwiches, the prayers sung before meals, the laughter shared between bites, the quench of cold, fresh water and watermelon juice that drips down our arms. We give thanks for evening campfires, the dancing of light from the flames, arms wrapped around one another, swaying back and forth with guitars, stories, songs, and inspiration. The ending of a day, the promise of a star-filled sky. Be with us, Lord. In these moments of joy and learning, open our hearts to see you in the faces of friends, the majesty of a setting sun, the silliness of songs, and the stories declaring your love for each of us. Teach us to sing and dance, rejoice, listen, and be still. This is our camper's prayer for us and all our relations. Amen. And let's be blessed with the gift of our chancel choir.
This joyful Eastertide, a blessing of sorrow, my love the crucified has brought this morrow. And Christ at once was slain, yours is 3-day prison. Our faith has been in vain, but now is Christ arisen, 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 arisen. And Christ at once was slain, yours is 3-day prison. Our faith had been in vain, but now is Christ arisen, 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 arisen.
Today's scripture is comprised of selected verses from Genesis 1, 6 days of creation. In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was a formless void, and darkness covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. And God said, "Let there be a dome in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters." So God made the dome, and separated the waters that were under the dome from the waters that were above the dome. And it was so. God called the dome sky, and God saw that it was good. And God said, "Let the waters under the sky be gathered together into one place, and let the land appear." And it was so, and God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let the earth put forth vegetation, plants yielding seed, and fruit trees of every kind on earth that bear fruit with the seed in it." And it was so, and God saw that it was good. And God said, "Let there be lights in the dome of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. And it was so. And God saw that it was good. And God said, "Let the waters bring forth swarms of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth and across the sky." And God saw that it was good. God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let birds multiply on the earth. Let the earth bring forth living creatures of every kind, cattle and creeping things, and wild animals of the earth of every kind." And it was so. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let us make humankind in our image, according to our likeness." So God created the humankind in his image. In the image of God he created them. Male and female he created them. And it was so. God saw everything that was made in creation, and indeed it was very good.
Good morning, friends at Edith Rankin. On this Camping Sunday, I want to introduce you once again to our favorite Executive Director of Camp Quinmalack, Trevor White. Trevor was with us last year for Camping Sunday, and he agreed to come back. And so we're blessed to have you with us this morning, Trevor. Welcome to you and the folks here at Edith Rankin.
Thank you so much. And it's a pleasure to be back at Edith Rankin.
Trevor, last summer, you were telling us that because of COVID, you weren't able to have in-person camp for the summer. So we need an update. Tell us what's happening for the summer of 2022.
So we're excited to finally be talking about camp again and talking about having kids and staff back at camp again. We are actually going to have staff on site within the week. And that is just so relieving to know that we're going to have people here thinking, dreaming, just creating, reimagining what we can do here at Quinmalack. This is a real opportunity to press reset in some ways and keep those things that we love, but also introduce new things and point ourselves in a new direction if we need to. The world has changed in a lot of ways since we've been doing our thing. So we're really excited to hear from our staff, see what they think is important, and see what direction we can take this in.
Fun. So do you have a particular theme for this summer, or what direction are you heading in?
So our theme is pretty simple this year. It's welcome back to Quinmalack. And I'm going to show you this. So these are all of the camper clans at camp, and it says welcome back to Quinmalack. And basically it's just an open arms, come on back into camp, and this is a place where you can be yourself, your true self, and we just want to welcome everyone back with open arms and make them feel good about being away from home in a new place, and really do some things that they haven't had an opportunity to do in a really long time, maybe at all.
Yeah, that's awesome. Welcome back to Quinmalack. I love it. So you mentioned you're having staff arrive as early as next week. Do you have a full complement of staff lined up for this summer, or are you still hiring and looking for positions?
We're still in the hiring process, but we're actually very happy with how it's unfolding.
Awesome.
There's actually a really nice complement of new staff and experienced staff. So thankfully, we've, 2 years, we wouldn't have wanted to go any longer than this, for sure, just because we have been able to bring some people back, maybe who would have been aged out by this point. But really, that brings a great level of maturity to the staff, when they're just that couple years older, and they know what they've missed out on. So coming back to camp, we have a new appreciation for it. But it's also really important to have those older people to be able to teach the younger generation, because they, our counselors won't have had counseling experience before. So they're going to need a lot of guidance along the way. And our program staff, who, many of them, have lots of camp experience, are going to be able to point them in those directions throughout the day and give them, help and guidance as they need it. So we are really blessed to have a variety of inexperience and experience, because it's going to benefit us in many, many different ways.
So that's interesting. The theme of welcome back to Quinmalac will certainly really resonate with some of those older kids, but for some it might be their first time coming to camp, and so it's a welcome to Quinmalac.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so what about for campers and registration? Do you have a full lineup of registration, or how many kids have you got coming so far?
We're actually starting to close camps. So that is really
Awesome.
hard to believe. It's been a while since we've been able to close a camp. So actually our second week, our week 2, week 5, our junior camp and our intro to camps, which is a new 4-day program for older kids, they are full. And our week 1 and week 3 are down to the last spots. So this year, actually, kind of going back to the staffing question as well, we would usually do 7 weeks in a summer, but we decided that training and getting people to where they need to be, we needed to expand our training week a little bit. So we're actually taking a little bit of a hit. We're doing 6 weeks instead of 7. And that training week is going to, is just going to be a little bit longer, so that our counselors can feel comfortable, with their responsibilities. So we felt like that was an important, it's an unpopular move, I'm sure, but it's an important move to make sure that people are where they need to be when we get kids on site.
Good for you. That extra training will really provide also a level of trust and security with families at home too. Even though they might not have that extra week to send kids to camp, they'll know that the 6 weeks that they're there will be really strong and good experiences for them. Good for you.
Yeah, exactly.
So I know that in this COVID period for the last 2.5 years or so, lots of individuals and families and organizations have taken on COVID projects. What have you been doing at Quinmalac? Tell us a little bit about any construction or upgrades or improvements to camps that you've been doing as your COVID projects.
Yes, we really tried to minimize our expenses as much as possible until we could see where the end it would be in sight, or until we could see where we were going to be able to open up again. Because really everything is just changing so quickly that you don't know what's going to be required out of you until the time, so we didn't want to make any changes that were going to be unnecessary eventually, when we are able to open up again. So last year, when the vaccine started to come into play, that was an indicator to us, okay, next year is possible. So, let's start thinking about what those pieces are that we need to change in order to be able to operate, in the thinking that we might still be dealing with COVID to a degree as we are operating. So the vaccine was a huge piece, and that's allowing us to even entertain the idea of summer camp. But some other pieces that we are really excited to show people and share. The first one being our first aid station. If anybody remembers our first aid station, it was very small, but we took out a wall, and now that space is about 3 times as big as it used to be. So that is going to be an important space to be able to social distance, because if somebody has a cold or sniffles, then that's where they're going to go. So we wanted to make sure that this was a space that could be completely sanitized. So it's going to be stark. There won't be any wood paneling on the walls. We need to be able to wipe down everything, and sanitize completely. So the first aid station, that is our first one that we like to, or that we're excited to show off. We're replacing any mattresses that had a fabric side on them. So if anybody has slept in one of our bunks, you know that usually there's a vinyl side and a cloth side, but we can't sanitize that cloth side. So this was something that we were doing already anyways, but really everything that's going on right now really pushed us into making sure that we completed that project. So we have 130 mattresses in our dining hall at the moment. And and so we need to get those into cabins, but they are vinyl on both sides, so we'll be able to wipe them down. And actually, that points me to the next piece, is that we have, they're called electrostatic sprayers. So they're kind of a backpack with a sanitizing agent, and it's kind of like a fogger that you can go into a building, just fog it down. And the electrostatic part means that it gets in every nook and cranny of that space. So we can go into a bathroom, fog it, and make sure that it's sanitized. But same with our cabins, because we have one group leaving in the morning and then another group coming in the afternoon. So, you know, that really complicates things for us. But if we can go into those cabins, you know, put the fogger in and make sure all of those mattresses, any surface is sanitized, that's a huge relief for us. So that's one of my favorite adaptations that we've implemented. So we've also replaced in our camp bathrooms and in Fount Lodge, where our youngest campers are, we've replaced any of those faucets with touchless faucets. So it's just one more, you know, one more spot where germs aren't going to get spread necessarily or as easily. So that is a really necessary improvement as well. And finally, our dining hall deck, we just put a new deck on our dining hall, and we are going to be putting a roof over top of that deck. That was already something that we were planning on doing, but again, this just kind of made that project a little more urgent, because we didn't want to find ourselves in the middle of the summer having to change our procedures. So we thought, why don't we go ahead with, let's eat outside this year. Let's put the tables out on the deck. Let's, you know, make it work. We do 2 sittings of meals, so it's split in half to begin with. But if you think about it, kids, it's eating is one thing you do 3 times a day. And if the kids are feeling claustrophobic, or if they're feeling scared because they're, you know, they're taking their mask off and there's all these people around them, that's going to make for a stressful experience. So we thought, let's move outside, let's get some fresh air, it'll be unique. And that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to the most this summer. So I think that a lot of kids will appreciate that move. One more thing too, that we, because we're trying to do things that are, you know, we're trying to do things that are low cost. But also improve, you know, the camp and give people something exciting to come back to. We've also replaced our waterfront fence. So usually it would just get knocked around in the spring with the water level, but we've redesigned that waterfront area so it's much more spacious. You know, if kids just want to sit at a picnic table instead of swimming, they can do that, and it will just get, it won't be overgrown as much. So so little things like that we're trying to do to you know, to spruce up camp and just make things, you know, a little more reliable. So there's lots of little things like that we're doing all over the place. We're clearing out trees, we're painting, you know, and trying to, you know, after 2 years of not operating, it is amazing how nature takes over. And we've, you know, we're trying to be intentional about those changes, that we don't want to change camp too much, but we need to, you know, there are pieces that we need to give attention to over, you know, at different times. So
you have had a busy COVID, your COVID projects. Wow, good for you. And it's really wonderful to hear the safety as a consideration for bringing those kids back to camp. We want to provide as safe as environment as possible for as COVID-free as we can be. So that's really great news. So good job for Quinn Malac. That's great, Trevor.
Thank you.
So these last 2 years, you know, of course, we've learned a lot during COVID, and it's been a project time as you've been busy, but it's also been a listening time. So as you've been listening, what have you heard from creator and from creation during this COVID time that kind of helped to remind you of the importance of the role of camp in kids' lives?
For sure. It has been an interesting vantage point to kind of be an observer, and observing the sentiments, of where we're at and how people are feeling and what they expect, us to do when we do get back at it.
Yeah.
It's really, I made a point of, through our hiring this year, of making sure to touch base with each of our staff. In Fount Lodge. This is our online meeting place. And they all loved coming to Fount Lodge and talking about their experience over the last 2 years. One of the questions I asked them is, what are you most proud of? Over the last 2 years, because it has been a really challenging time. It's been different for everybody. And, everybody has had different levels of difficulties, I think, through this time. But the most common response from the staff was how they were able to focus on themselves or focus on their own insecurities or challenges that they've been facing. Sometimes we can just get caught up in the momentum of having to be this for this point of your life, and then, planning for the next piece. And it's a really challenging time in their lives when you're 18 to 22 and trying to figure things out. So it really did sound as though a lot of them had taken this time to really just take stock of themselves and see where they're at and just kind of get on track. Maybe they couldn't lean on other people as much, so they needed to get their planning in sort, so that they are doing things on their own, or just mental health, like people really just kind of figuring out where they're at emotionally, and then having an opportunity to focus on it. So it really puts life in perspective when we're facing something like this. And I think a lot of people really analyze their place in the world and who they want to be. So that was really, really a great takeaway. And seeing everybody after 2 years or 3 years, it was kind of like, putting them in a time warp, and all of a sudden they're 3 years older and more mature. And it was really a wonderful experience to catch up with everybody after 2 years and get their ideas on how they're thinking and what camp needs this year. When it comes to kids, I have nieces that I'm able to kind of get an insight as to how they're doing. I had a service yesterday on Sunday, and I met with a friend as well. And it was really interesting. I had the same comment twice from two completely different circumstances, or two completely different people. One of them was referring to their grandchild and one of them was referring to their kid. But the comment was, my kid doesn't have friends. And the kid tells them, I don't have any friends. So talking about, kids not having friends and not having that opportunity to make connections, because, if they're online, the cameras are probably off, or they're not able to talk directly to each other. There's all different social media.
Isolation is real, really isolating.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and not being allowed to go and see their friends, because of safety. Yeah. So giving kids an opportunity to have an experience at camp where they are forced to make friends, in a sense, is going to be a high priority for us. Making friends and storytelling, I think, are the two things that we need to focus on this year, to open up their imagination, to, think creatively and kind of inspire them to focus on things that they haven't been able to focus on for a long time. So it's 2 years in the life of a child is huge. So that's kind of what we've picked up on. Kids need this experience now more than ever. I know I've said that before, but now
it's still true. Well, we
It's
here
more
at Edith Rankin, we want to make friends with you at Camp Quinmalac too. And we want to continue to tell your story and the goodness and the importance of camp in children's lives, but also in adults' lives, of ways that we can connect with Creator and creation, but also ensure that our children and grandchildren have that opportunity to learn, to experience, to be outside, to make friends, but to really build relationship. And we often know that that's the root of faith. So one way that we can do that is to share the story by wearing it to the grocery store or out to the ball diamond with your kids. And so Joyce and I got these great hoodies online. Are you still promoting your merchandise on Camp Quinmalac's website?
We are, and this is something that we wouldn't have done otherwise. We wouldn't have sold clothes online. You know, we're a pretty basic operation, but it was one of those things that really helped keep the energy around Quinmalac over the last 2 years. And so making clothes available to everybody and not just in our tuck shop at camp, I think is a really good move because it's feel-good clothing. So it's, it's when you feel like you need a hug, you wear your Quinmalac clothes, when you feel like you need to be put in that space, then that's a really, good way to be able to do that. And I also want to encourage you that if you see somebody out there wearing Quinmalac clothes, make sure you say hi to them or say, hey, I know Quinmalac. You'll get a huge smile from them and they'll know that they're a part of something special, something bigger than themselves.
Absolutely. Trevor, we want to bless you and we want to thank you for all the work that you're doing at Quinmalac and for Quinmalac with the kids and for the kids. It is such a grounding place for faith to be born, and we're just really, really grateful. We want to support you and encourage you and bless you. And of course, thank you for helping us share the story this morning. Know that we're in your corner, and if there's ever anything you need, don't do anything but hesitate to reach out and give us a shout, and we'll be there to help encourage you along. Thanks for sharing your blessings on this Camping Sunday.
We definitely feel the support, and I want to thank you, Michelle, and Edith Rankin United Church. You are a huge supporter of Quinmalac, and we hope that you can come on out and see us in action again. Thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of your Sunday, and I look forward to the next time too.
Sounds great. Bye for now, Trevor.
Thank you. See you.
It's Camping Sunday, and Trevor Wright from Camp Quinmalac, one of our United Church camps across the country. As a youngster, I was a camper at Camp Quinmalac, and my sister and I would get into the back seat of the station wagon, and we lived in Sunderland. Camp Quinmalac is in Madoc, and as a youngster, it might as well have been on the other side of the planet. It was an early start. It included sandwiches and raisins and grapes packed in a paper bag for this great outing off on our way to camp. We would chitter-chatter in the back seat all the way, deciding what would our camp names be? How would we be known throughout this whole week at camp? Would we pick the top bunk, or would we have to settle for a bottom bunk? How boring. All the way to camp, we would anticipate and imagine how it was that we were going to get to experience the living God in people that we hadn't yet met, and in 7 short days would be our best friends. The anxiety of pulling in who would be in our cabin, who would be our counselor, and then 7 short days later, weeping in tears, how could we possibly leave? The choir's nodding, they know all about it. You've been to camp. Camping, being outside in creation and with Creator, is one of the best ways to be able to experience the living God. And then we get old, and our knees hurt. And the thought of climbing to the top bunk, ugh. But we can still go camping in spirit. We can still send our children and our grandchildren to United Church camps across the country. We can dare to find a comfy, expensive, bathroom-laden trailer and put the tent in Lorna Thorne's garage sale. We can find ways by phoning our friends and say, let's go for a walk in Lemoyne Point. We can reach out and remember the importance that the birds are making nests and finding safe places for their young. We can read again the Genesis story that Bonnie read for us this morning and be reminded that God said it is good. It is good to be with and in relationship with and learning from and listening to Creator and creation. The lessons taught at camp are lifelong lessons, and I want to encourage you this week. The sun is getting warmer. The earth is daring to break forth new life. The forsythia is bursting. And take your shoes off. Take your socks off. Wiggle those toes in that fresh, damp earth. And be reminded of the spirit of a camper. Dare to light a fire and find that familiar scent of the campfire. And Amy Baker says, bring the marshmallows. Dare to find the spirit of a camper as you enter out into creation and be reminded that God said it is good. It is so very good. And you too can find new life and new hope and new grace for all that is within us and around us. And for that, all God's people can say, Amen. Oh, love, how deep. Let's be blessed with our chancel choir under the direction of Kim Barney once again. are so grateful for all of the ways that you share your time and your talents, your gifts here at Edith Rankin. We're so grateful for the ways that you want to inspire your family, your neighbors, your community. We're grateful for your financial gifts and your par gifts to Edith Rankin and to the mission and service of the United Church of Canada. That is the fund out of which camps across the country are supported and resourced. And so we encourage you to share your gifts with mission and service of the United Church. And we encourage you to send your kids and your grandkids to camp this summer so that they too might have that lifelong lesson of being out and being in relationship with Creator and with creation. So for the gift of creation, we give our gratitude. I invite you to stand as you are able or comfortable, and we will sing it together from page 538 or on your monitors. I'm going to invite you to remain standing. Got ya. For the prayers of the people this morning, this is an opportunity for us to engage with our own spirits, with our own song, and with creation. I will speak the words, and you will be invited to respond in song. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Will you pray with me? Holy One of many names, we gather our hearts ready for your next camping adventure. We call you Creator, and we find you in the most breathtaking parts of creation. From the spectacular glaciers to the cascading waterfalls to the babbling brook to the baptismal font, you bless us with water in your holy creation. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary for your blessing of water. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Holy Spirit of Ruah, we experience you in the divine winds that blow. From the gentle breeze that flutters the fine pollen for the honeybees, to the gush that blows open the front door and announces your arrival. From the winds that carry our sails to new horizons. From the first breath to the final breath, you bless us. with air, breath, spirit in your holy creation. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary for your blessing of air. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Jesus, the risen Christ, we honor you in the light, as the light of the world that shines here in this place of peace and hope, grace and goodness, and the light of the world that also shines in places of war and destruction, evil and hate. The light of the world that comes in delicate candle flame and in mesmerizing glow of campfire. You bless us with light, fire, love, and grace. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary for the blessing of light. To be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. We pray these things in the name of your risen Son, who taught all his disciples to pray together with one voice, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. And let's sing together our final hymn this morning, a great camp song, I'm Gonna Live So God Can Use Me. You'll find it on page 575 or on your screens.
Thank you.
So friends, go from this place ready to be all that you can be. Live in the spirit of the campfire. Live in the spirit of the water and the wind and the light of the world. Live so that you can sing and work and dance and pray for the one who gives you life. Go from this place in peace. And all God's people can say, Amen. So friends, go from this place ready to be all that you can be. Live in the spirit of the campfire. Live in the spirit of the water and the wind and the light of the world. Live so that you can sing and work and dance and pray for the one who gives you life. Go from this place in peace. And all God's people can say, Amen.